Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Rachel, a personal trainer and holistic health coach. Today we're going to talk about exercise and how to utilize it as a stress reducer as opposed to creating more stress for you. So I know it's super relevant right now with everything going on with COVID-19. There's so many reasons to feel stressed out. And that's completely valid. You know, it's real. So how you cope with it can either feed into that stress or it can help reduce it. Now, it's important to remember that some stress isn't bad. We have different types of stress. So we have physical stress, chemical, mental, and they all need to just be applied appropriately in order to reap the benefits. So for an example, physical stress, right, would be exercise. So applying stress to the joints, to the muscles in order to make them stronger. When you do that appropriately, you do reap those benefits. When you overdo it or when you don't do enough of it, it starts to go in the other direction. So we want to make sure that we are applying the appropriate amount of stress and exercising the right way depending on what our stress levels are. So some of you may or may not be utilizing exercise as a, way to cope with stress. And I'm a huge advocate of physical activity in general. It doesn't need to be a workout, but just any sort of physical activity in order to help reduce that stress. So you just want to make sure, again, that you're applying it the right way. So after your physical activity, your exercise, your workout, you should feel energized. You should feel reduction in any aches or pains. You should feel somewhat relaxed and clear. You should feel, the cognitive benefits of it. So maybe you feel a little more creative. Maybe you feel a little more focused. If you are feeling the opposite of that, you are either not doing enough or you're overdoing it. So we're going to kind of talk about how you could be possibly overdoing it with all the extra stress that we have right now. So, depending on the individual, context is everything. You are going to apply exercise differently. You are not the same as the person next to you, or not, because we're distancing right now. So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit today. Okay, so how do you know if you're overdoing your exercise, right? So signs of overtraining are fatigue, soreness, loss of appetite, restlessness or insomnia, just the inability to, really get good quality sleep. You're going to feel chronic aches and pains. So if you're feeling any of those things, you could potentially be overtraining. And now if you're not exercising at all and you're like, well, Rachel, I still feel all these things, definitely possible, because all of these signs and symptoms are also just side effects of extra stress, right? That's happening throughout our body, internally, externally, whatever the case may be. So our body doesn't really understand what types of stresses are being applied. It just knows the stress. So in order to have a nice balance between everything with all the stress that you're applying to it, whether it's in your control or not, you want to have the appropriate balance to that, which would be to rest and recover. So how do we do that, right? How do we know if we're exercising too much, and what's the solution there? So right now, you may be a little confused. You're like, well, I don't know if my exercise is stressing me out. I don't know if I'm doing too little. I don't know if I'm doing too much, whatever the case may be. And the first thing I'll say is that I would never tell anybody to stop being physically active, right? It's just the modality or how much you're applying or the intensity. But being physically active, I would never stop doing that. Now, how do we figure out how to apply the appropriate amount of exercise for you? So the first thing I would want you to do is become more self-aware, and it is a painful and tedious and annoying process, but if you are not aware of what your internal and external stresses are, you then don't know how to adapt and how to modify and what things to change. So you just want to be really mindful of what does stress you out, and different ways that you do cope with it. Maybe you have really good ways that you're coping with stress, or maybe you have really ineffective ones towards your goals. So the first thing is really just becoming self-aware, and how you can do that is good old tracking. So whether it be journaling, writing, an app, there's so many different apps out there to track all different kinds of things, emotions, thoughts, exercises, whatever the case may be. So try and track something, be mindful, and just become a little more self-aware of those stressors. And then the second thing I would recommend would be to just think of the association that you have with exercise right now, and just think on that for a little while. Is it a punishment for you, or is it something that you do because you enjoy the reducing the stress reduction that it gives you? Do you enjoy the focus? Do you enjoy the energy that you get from exercising? If you do, great. If you're using it as like a punishment or a chore or just something that you feel like you have to do, then that's also something that I would work on trying to change. So trying to change your mindset and valuing exercise for things other than just maybe the weight loss that it's going to potentially give you one day, but valuing it for the other benefits there. So just changing your attitude a little bit towards exercise itself is another great way to really find just a modality that you can benefit from and maybe that you'll enjoy doing. And then the third thing I would recommend is just having different knowledge and trying to experience different types and different modalities of exercise. So there's a lot out there, but I'll narrow it down to 3 different modalities for you. And that's, mobility, or, a flexibility stretching type of, modality. So maybe it's mobility classes, or maybe it's yoga or Pilates, right? Something along those lines. And then you have your resistance training. So that would be using your dumbbells and your barbells and your strength training programs and applying resistance in that way. That would be another modality. And then of course, cardio. So there are so many different ways to utilize cardio. We're not going to get into that right now, but I would say those are the 3 main ways to utilize exercise, and just understanding the benefits of each and how you can apply them appropriately for you is going to be, the best way to really individualize your workout to help reduce the stress, as opposed to doing the opposite. Now, if you absolutely love, I'll give you an example. Maybe you have really high stress at home, kids, work is really high stress, and then your way to relieve your stress is to go to a HIIT class for an hour and run your ass off and sweat till you can't sweat anymore, and that is the way that you relieve your stress. Now, I would say that that's probably too much stress that's being applied to your body, but you love it so much you don't want to give it up. Then I would start to look at all the other stressors in your life and see if you can adapt those in any way to become less stressful on you. Because if there's something that you love, I wouldn't say give it up, right? Because if you enjoy it, then it's healthy for you. But then you need to look at just other aspects of your lifestyle and what is stressing you out, and just try and modify and adapt those to find a nice balance, so you can still do what you love and not be too stressed out all the time. So it's my job as a personal trainer and health coach to help you utilize exercise as a stress reducer, and then also achieve the results that you desire, right? So if you have any questions, or you're confused about where to start with your exercise, or you don't know if you're doing too much or too little, don't be afraid to reach out. You can DM me. I'm on Instagram at mindmusclemvmt_, so mind muscle movement. Or if you want to email me at hello@mindmusclemvmt.com. You can always reach me there. Again, any questions you guys have. In the meantime, keep the stress low if you can, keep a positive mindset, and first and foremost, most important, stay sane, stay healthy, and stay away from me until this is over.